PGR's resident tsundere is back to bonk some heads as the newest Omniframe debuting in the upcoming update, A New Divide. And if you don't want to miss future PGR guides and videos, don't forget to subscribe. I also stream on my Twitch at twitch.tv/SpiderTV, and if I make any corrections or forget to mention something, it'll be in the pinned comment down below. Alright, let's spin on in.
こちら 2B 問題ない
Karenina Scire is a base S-rank tank Omniframe that deals purely dark damage and features dark resist shred, AoE crowd control, and a spin to win playstyle. And in this video, I'll cover her skills, passives, ascensions, playstyle, weapons, builds, team setup, her pet, comparison with other dark tanks, and my pull and build recommendations. And as usual, I'll leave timestamps if you want to jump to a specific topic. Going through her kit, her basic attack swings her hammer in melee range, dealing purely dark damage, with the attack string ending in a knockup and ground slam. Her QTE slams the ground, dealing dark damage in an AoE and reducing the enemy's dark resistance by 15% for a brief period. Next, for her orb abilities, her red orb is a simple dash forward that ends in a roundhouse spin, dealing dark damage. Her blue orb fires gravity projectiles that pull in enemies, dealing dark damage. You can also use a yellow or another blue orb during the animation to fire more gravity projectiles without resetting the animation, so you can kind of chain the attacks. And her yellow orb deploys a gravity field, pulling in and suspending enemies in midair while shredding their dark resistance for a few seconds. She also gains a shield based on her HP and the amount of orbs pinged. And again, you can use a yellow or another blue orb to fire more gravity fields without resetting the animation to chain it. And finally, this is her swap and attack. And now take all of that knowledge about orbs and shove it in the trash, because you'll rarely ping orbs on her thanks to her core passive spin mechanic. And since Kuro loves writing long descriptions to make me suffer, I'll go over the full explanation of the core passive and ultimate first, and then give a TLDR afterwards. The first part is the charge attack. If Karenina has a 3 orb or matrix ping, holding down basic attack will consume it to charge her hammer, indicated by the hammer gauge. While charging, she cannot dodge, but she cannot be interrupted, and she gets up to 90% damage reduction based on the amount of orbs pinged. She can also consume up to 2 sets of the 3 orb or matrix pings at base, prioritizing matrix orb pings. When Karenina has absorbed the max amount of orbs, she'll do a soaring strike attack, dealing massive dark damage and sending her into the air. If she's consumed 2 sets of 3 orb or matrix pings, the soaring strike damage is doubled. While in the air, spamming basic attack spins Karenina's hammer faster and gives her more airtime while dealing a bit of dark damage. In spin mode, Karenina gets 50% damage reduction and she cannot be interrupted. It also builds kinetic energy, which is indicated at the number on the gauge up to 999, which will be more important later on. When Karenina finally lands, she deals some dark damage and gains some ultimate energy, but if the gauge still has some charge left, she'll consume it to jump back into the air. Karenina can also dodge during her spin. This consumes dodge gauge to pull in enemies and knocks them airborne, dealing dark damage. It also restores some charge for the gauge and grants some ultimate energy on a 10-second cooldown. Dodging when an enemy attacks deals even more dark damage and restores the dodge gauge as well, with again a 10-second cooldown. And finally, her ultimate stops time to launch a gravity projectile into enemies, crowd controlling them and dealing massive dark damage. This damage is increased for each point of kinetic energy gained from the spinning, and if Karenina was in the air, she gets grounded after ulting. So, to sum it all up, consume up to 2 sets of 3 orb or matrix pings by holding down the basic attack to perform a soaring strike. Spam basic attack to spin in midair, and you can dodge to get some more airtime and ult energy, and then when you have 999 kinetic energy, ult for the max damage explosion. And for the leader passive, the team gets 10% increased dark damage, and tanks get an extra 5% attack. Karenina is the first Omniframe to introduce new in-between upgrades between ranks, so basically, my videos just got a lot longer. For S5, which is 15 shards after unlocking her, it gives Karenina an HP based shield for each 3 orb or matrix ping that she consumes while charging. Overall, it's not really a notable upgrade. Her double S applies dark resistance when dealing damage, and when Karenina is able to charge, she automatically rearranges her orb order as red, blue, and then yellow. Overall, it's a nice quality of life, but not a crazy increase in damage or utility in my opinion. Next, we have double S3, which is 3 copies or 1 copy after double S. It lets her consume another set of 3 orb or matrix pings while charging, up to 3 sets, and consuming 3 sets will quadruple the damage of the soaring strike and increase her spin damage by 75%. Her ult will now deploy a field that deals 75% dark damage to surrounding enemies, as well as those that walk into it, and apply the dark resist shred and the tank class skill. And this is the damage breakpoint, allowing Karenina to support and do respectable damage. Her triple S increases her dark damage when spinning, it shreds enemies' extra damage reduction when doing damage to enemies, her charging will always activate both QTEs, and finally, her spin speed will automatically increase. From this point on, it's almost exponentially more damage per rank, so triple S is a massive increase in damage from double S3. Next we have triple S3, which is about 7 copies, or 2 copies after triple S, and when a teammate uses their ult, Karenina will gain a 3 orb ping, and she can now charge up to 4 sets of 3 orb pings, increasing the soaring strike damage 6-fold from base, and the spin damage is increased by 200%. Then we have triple S6, which is about 9 copies or 4 copies after triple S, and the spin damage bonus is increased here. And finally, triple S plus, the ult damage bonus is increased and she gets a free 3 orb ping on swapping. And I'll talk about the rank recommendations in depth at the end of the video, since her recommended rank varies depending on your account. As for weapons, I'm just going to jump to her 6-star signature weapon, because if you pull for Karen, her signature weapon is a must pull, since her additional Dark Shred is locked behind her 6-star weapon passive, and without it, she's barely better than Tenebron at S rank, and a downgrade if Tenebron is double S. And at that point, you might as well run Tenebron or triple S21 instead. The weapon also increases the soaring strike damage, and recovers some ult energy with each spin hit. And as for a 6-star weapon resonance priority, definitely Tenebron Shock, into Deadline if you have double S3 or higher, and then finally Resonant Echo. And since double S3 depends on having 3 sets of 3 orb or matrix pings to activate the increased spin damage, having Deadline makes proccing the passive much more consistent. As for builds, 5-star memories you can run 4-piece Ike and 2-piece Gloria, and Karenina has many 6-star memory builds depending on her rank and situation. If you have Karenina at S to double S rank, you have 2 primary builds. Since Karenina won't be on field for long due to her lower damage, she'll mainly be supporting the team off field. You can run 4-piece Da Vinci on slots 4, 5, and 6 with 2-piece Einstein on top for Pancake Burst or more survivability in game modes like Norman, ironically making Da Vinci one of the primary sets for all the Kareninas at this point. For extended game modes like Warzone or tankier Pancake bosses, running 4-piece Bathlon instead can be just as good, if not better, than Da Vinci. Or you can just forgo running Da Vinci on the team completely and run DPS sets if you have triple S Selena, and run Luna since Luna triggers both QTEs anyways. For these support builds, you want plus 15 attack on the top resonance and tank class skill on the bottom resonance. And resonance is not super necessary, and Hypertune is definitely not necessary for this level of investment. Once Karenina hits double S3, you can justify using her signature set, Boon, to boost her personal damage. Running 4-piece Boon on slots 4, 5, and 6 with 2-piece Einstein on the top can work to sub DPS while also debuffing for the team. But if you want real spin damage, running 2-piece Condolina instead, yes, an actual use for Condolina, can boost her soaring strike and spin damage, enabling more damage from her at the cost of someone else having to hold Einstein. You can also run 2-piece Caudy for solo DPS Pancake as well. These DPS sets want plus 15 attack on the top resonance and core passive on the bottom resonance, and also Hypertune slots 4, 5, and 6 as well. Okay, so just straight up too many Dark Team combinations for me to talk about all of them, so to keep my sanity, I'll elaborate on the end goal meta Dark Team and quickly cover the alternate teams. First of all, we have the finalized meta Dark Team, starting with Luna on the yellow slot with 4-piece Flamel and 2-piece Darwin, Selena Capriccio on the red slot to trigger her QTE when charging on double S Karen, and you can run a variety of builds on Selena, including 4-piece Seraphine and 2-piece Caudy for DPS, or 2-piece Guinevere for Pancake if she's triple S, or a Da Vinci set if she's under triple S. And finally, Karenina on the blue slot, so Selena can proc Karen's QTE with her blue pings. And you can run 4-piece Boon and 2-piece Einstein, or 2-piece Condolina for DPS if she's double S3 or above, but if she's double S or under, run 4-piece Bathlon or 4-piece Da Vinci with 2-piece Einstein to support Selena and Luna. The exact build combination will depend on the game mode and investment, but these are the sets I usually swap around for this team. You'll want Luna as the leader and Karen as a starter since she's on the support build, otherwise start with Selena since she gets more time to build up her orbs. And you can replace triple S Selena with triple S Vera Rosen as a free-to-play alternative, just run 4-piece Da Vinci and 2-piece Guinevere on Vera Rosen instead. If you run Astral, here's the team, assuming you're running a base S Karen. And if you have double S3 or higher Karen, you can run her as a Pancake DPS, so here's an example team. Karen's field time will depend on rank investment. A support Karen will swap in between Selena or Luna's rotation to quickly spin or do a 3-orb ping before swapping out. But basically you want to minimize Karen's field time and just keep repeating this rotation. A DPS Karen will swap in and spin enough to build and use her ultimate before swapping back out. You can start with Selena and swap into Karen if you have deadline timing on Karen. Otherwise, start with Karen and matrix an attack before spinning to build her ultimate and use it before swapping out to like Luna or Selena to do their core passives and ult. Using Watanabe Astro in place of Luna and or Vera Rosen in place of Selena will utilize these same rotations depending on Karen's build and investment. For tankier pancake bosses, it's about the same rotation, but S3 Karen's fully charged Soaring Strike does massive damage super quickly, enabling quick execution of some early stage or weaker pancake bosses. Just note that without Deadline Resonance, you need to Orb RNG a perfect Orb bar and Matrix an Orb before charging. Some other notes about her core passive: sometimes you physically cannot see another 3 orb ping set until you are in the middle of the charge, and the core passive charge will only work if there's one perfect 3 orb ping or matrix ping, so you need to sort it out beforehand. And since consuming 3 orb pings while charging counts as pinging an orb, you'll get ultimate energy, build pet active skill charges, and proc QTEs for the respective consumed orbs. And yeah, try to trigger her QTEs as much as possible since it's the main way to apply the Dark Resist Shred and Einstein. Next up, let's talk about her rabbit pet, modeled after my face when I don't get enough sleep. It passively buffs her ultimate damage by a ton, while also providing grouping on the spin, and its active skill is basically Karenina's Yellow Orb, slamming enemies in an AoE and suspending them. Make sure to equip the first skill since it has a longer grouping duration. But if you don't plan to get Karenina to S3, it's not worth getting as a pet as it mainly benefits the DPS Karen more, which is S3 or higher. Alright, it's time for Tenebron to come back for round 2, this time facing off against Karenina. Note that the Dark Resistance buffs don't stack between 21, Tenebron, and Karenina, and when compared to S21, Karenina at base has only 5% more Dark Shred with a longer duration and grouping on the QTE. But once Karenina gets her signature weapon, she pulls much further ahead than 21. At low investment, Karenina and Tenebron are almost equivalent in terms of utility and damage. Both Karenina and Tenebron can provide an equivalent 25% Dark Resistance Shred, but base S Karenina needs her signature weapon for the added Dark Shred, and Tenebron just needs S for his, but he needs to ult first to activate it. Once Karenina hits S with her weapon, she does slightly more damage than Tenebron, but barely, and it's only when Karenina hits S3 with her weapon that you can start to see real damage after consuming 3 sets of 3 Orb Matrix pings for her Soaring Strike. At this rank and beyond, she starts to exponentially outdamage Tenebron at any investment. But if you're starting from scratch, after investing in Luna, a S Selena is the most cost-effective sub-DPS option over S3 Karen. Since Selena shards can be obtained through the Battle Pass currency, her shards can be farmed from the Fantasia game mode, and she can also be used on other teams once invested with Resonance. Now that we understand the breakpoints, let's talk about whether you should pull and build her. And ultimately, it's going to depend on your specific account situation. If you already have Tenebron, especially at S, or you're a new player, low in black cards, or a free-to-play player, you can skip her. Karenina with her signature weapon provides a faster setup, QTE grouping, and longer duration shred, but it's probably not worth spending 22,500 black cards for a slight upgrade in quality of life. But if you don't have Tenebron and want an upgrade from 21, you can consider pulling Karenina and keep her at S, but you'll need her signature weapon for it to be a worthwhile upgrade over S21. If you're a spender and want her to be able to sub DPS, you can plan to S3 her with her signature 6-star weapon and her pet if you have the funds. Remember that you can always pull 2 copies and get S3 through Pancage. And for the whales, you can go for S or S3 because that's when she does a ton of damage. But I want to preface that all of these options are meta viable, and I personally ran with S rank Karenina with her signature weapon for a long time and was able to clear game modes at a competitive level utilizing S Selena and Luna as the DPS, since Selena shards were easier to obtain. I eventually scrounged enough to S Karenina, and then finally grinded Pancage to get her to S3 recently, so basically I've utilized Karenina at all of her ranks. But it's important to note that at the time of her release, the 2nd anniversary banner should be near, so if you're okay with S number 21 or a S Tenebron, you're probably better off picking up characters that you missed on the anniversary banner instead. Overall, Dark Karen is unfortunately an expensive unit and often not worth the cost for many free-to-play or newer players, but if you're a spender that's able to hit that high investment threshold of S3, her weapon, and her pet, she's a very strong dark meta unit. So the moral of the story is,
I am never gonna financially recover from this.
But you can't give me a twin tail tsundere voiced by Tomatsu Haruka and tell me not to pull for her. So here I am. There's a lot to Dark Karenina, but I hope this video answers some of your questions. If I missed something or have any corrections, I'll leave a pinned comment down below. If you have any questions, drop in the comments or ask our community Discord at discord.io/ajinotamra, and if I got the time, I'll try to answer them. Subscribe so you don't miss featured guides and videos, and if you found this video informative, drop a like, a dislike if you didn't. I stream sometimes on my Twitch at twitch.tv/spidertb, so drop a follow if you want to see when I go live. And yeah, sorry for the gap in upload. I've been extremely busy sorting out a whole bunch of things this month and trying to catch up on backlog before my vacation, because I'ma definitely need one after this video. But I managed to not die inside and graduate with my degree, so now if only my students in game would do the same. But thank you all for watching till the end. This might be one of the longest guides I've ever made, so I'm surprised people would listen to me ramble for this long. But again, take care, good luck on your pulls, and peace, Lake.